Hi, and welcome to Wrong Way. And today we are going to disassemble the GotWay Tesla V2 and take a look from the inside how it's made, what's its build quality, and so on. So let me tell you more about it. Wrong Way. I got this Tesla V2 at myewheel.com instead of having a scooter for the same price. But anyways, today we are going to take a deep dive into this wheel, check out what's the safety features, what's the build quality, and if you want to buy a EUC, just feel free to check out myewheel.com, use the promo code WRONGWAY, and get yourself a beautiful new wheel. Just a quick overview on the Tesla V2. It's a 16-inch wheel with a around 1000 watt-hour battery, giving you a 60-kilometer range, and the top speed is anywhere like around 45-40 kilometers an hour, depending on your battery state. At this price point, the main rival is the Inmotion V10F, which we disassembled in the last video, and the Begode is more of like a performance fast wheel compared to the V10F. But now, let's just dive into the disassembly process. First thing I want to open up is the charge port, which is actually not that safe like on the V10F. If you were to connect a charger which is not plugged into the wall outlet, you will see a spark creating in the charge port, and in the same scenario, if like water were to ingress or just a small particle or some piece of metal, whatever, it will just create sparks, and it's a high voltage port and it's always under high load. With a strong enough short circuit, the wheel could potentially turn off during your riding. That's what once happened to me when a charge port was fully immersed in the water on a MSX. And all in all, I think it's like not really a safe solution. I like that it's not on the top of the wheel, but perfectly it would be somewhere on the side in the back. The charge ports should definitely not be under full load of the full voltage and high amperage at all times. It should be activated like on the V10F once it recognizes a real charger is connected to the wheel. If you do the same thing to the V10F, there won't be a spark. So right off the bat, this is a small downside of the Begode Tesla V2. Footplates have magnets inside, so they don't fall out by themselves, and you actually don't need to take them out to disassemble the Tesla. You just need to take this plastic cover off and 4 Phillips head screws, which are on the side of the wheel. But as I want to install my new Nylonove footplates anyways on this wheel, I will take the footplates off at a later point. You need to pull up the side pad ever so slightly to reach 2 of the screws, but not a big deal, and all in all they're pretty deep inside and hold the shell firmly together. Once you open up the left side panel of the Tesla, you can see the trolley handle and one of the 2 84-volt 510 watt-hour battery packs. The batteries are pretty much not secured at all. There's just a blue shrink tape and the gasket which holds the cells themselves together. I would really like to see additional security in form of a plastic encasing or other sort of encasing to improve waterproofing and safety of solderings in these batteries. As EUCs have lots of vibrations and we ride also in all weather, there needs to be more done in this department, like for example on the V10F or the Inmotion V11. As we just took off the side panel, we might as well just take a look at it. On the bottom you can see a magnet which is destined for the footplate, which holds the footplate upright. And there's also a pass-through hole with a mesh where water can potentially go in. I think it's just the same panel which is on the other side, but on this side it doesn't serve any purpose as there is no speaker here. I would like this one to be covered so no water could get in if the unicycle is laying on its side. Once I open up the footplate, I can already see that a plastic piece that was holding the trolley handle together is broken, and yeah, we were just using it normally. And then I can remove the footplates by unscrewing these hex screws. Hammering the pedal rod out is easy enough. And the footplates themselves aren't really anything spectacular. The grip tape gets washed away during rain really easy, and they're a bit smaller than on the Nikola or on the RS19, so for people with bigger feet they might be just a bit small. Better get the Nylonove! After taking out the same amount of screws on the right side, we can see that on this side there's a lot more going on than on the other one. On the bottom there's the light up Tesla 2 logo, and underneath that there's actually the Bluetooth speaker.
How it's made. So let me tell you more about it. Wrongway.
Next to that is the daughter board, which powers all the accessories, and there's also a beeper, which is really loud, and the motherboard is actually on the top, and it's quite hard to reach from the top, so you'll see soon how we get it out. In order to do any work basically on the motherboard which sits on the top, or a tire change, you will need to take out both battery packs. I wouldn't advise to work on this wheel if the battery packs are inside, and they're easy enough to take out, so you might as well do that. After a fair bit of finicking, you can release the plastic cable holder, so you can set free the cable carbonara which is on the side of the wheel. Then make a pic of the connections so you don't forget, but actually they're pretty straightforward. It's really hard to mess up these connections. Meanwhile, we might as well take apart the RGB light cover, which is on the side. And fun fact, you actually don't need to take it out at all during a disassembly process, as the connectors are on the inside of the shell close to the motherboard. The covers are snugly held in place, but I would like to see some additional isolation, as there are some pass-through holes behind the LED strip which is on the side. The LED strip itself is like a snake which is covered in silicone. To make a tire change, you don't really need to remove the panels which are in the middle of the EUC, but as we want to take it apart fully today, I'm just opening them up. They're also really tightly in place, and especially the other one that was on the wheel was really hard to get out. I was really scared of breaking the plastic. Once these panels are removed, another set of 5 Phillips head screws per side are revealed, which you need to take out in order to open up the 2 halves of the shell. In the meantime of meantimes, I also take the other battery out of the EUC. The battery cables are easy enough to take out through the upper side of the shell. And finally, I can relax and calmly work on a EUC which doesn't have a high voltage battery installed and high voltage connectors sticking out. Then I proceed to remove the 6 hex screws which hold the shell to the L hangers of the EUC, and they're pretty nice quality, and there's 6 of them, so 2 more than on the Inmotion V10F. In a mysterious turn of events, I proceed to remove 2 screws, yes, just 2 singular wooden screws, I mean screws destined for wood, that hold the motherboard in the electric unicycle. Now it slides into a slot which holds the motherboard in place, but there's just 2 screws that hold the motherboard in place. I think I don't need to explain that there's been a bit too much savings going on in the V2. You can get the motherboard out just barely with the amount of cables that is on the top, and finally we can see how it looks like. We can see that there is a small ventilator on the top of the wheel, which is stacked on 2 layers of metal. The motor phase cables are wired directly into the motherboard, so there's not like a singular connector like we've seen on the V10F, which makes life just a bit more difficult. You need to mark these cables or just remember the colors where which one goes to not mess them up later on as you disconnect them. Most of the other cables, including the one that goes into the motor, is also covered in this goop. And I can also see that the motherboard is coated, which is good. Next, we need to pull the motor wires through the motherboard heatsink arc thing. Remove 2 more Phillips head screws, which we forgot earlier. And to unscrew one of these 2 screws, we actually need to take the handle apart because it's just behind the trolley handle. Okay guys, so a couple of things to show you around in the inside of the Tesla V2. Actually the wheel is really snugly fit. in here. There's duct tape, literally like that. That was on the top of the motherboard. I mean, it's better than nothing, but yeah. I mean, we saw that in the V11 as well. I think we also saw tape there, but here it is as well. No silicone, just duct tape. All the ports here are really nicely secured. Like, there's lots of goop in there. But on the other hand, you can just get a short on the port on the outside, so that's that. Like, from the top, there's like no silicone. Here, like, mostly there's a ridge, which is really cool, right? Like a gasket that won't allow any water to seep in. Like, maybe only in the middle point where the two shells meet, because they're like exactly the same, but mirrored on the Tesla. So you have like screws that go in here. You screw them from this side, and the ones that are here, screw them in from the other side. So that's that. One thing that was really surprising, it just two screws holding the motherboard together on the side. And maybe I'll flip it over and show you the motherboard as well, a bit, you know, a bit closer up. There's the lift switch, also pretty well sealed. Yeah, there's some goop in there, all the cable pass-throughs. There's also some holes that are actually, yeah, these are holes that are I think that hold the LED ring in place. Potentially water could seep in through there, because this is like one compartment. Unless the wheel falls or something, where there's not really big change that something might go onto the motherboard, but there's still a chance, a bigger chance definitely than on the V10F here as well. So if you like hit it in the front, or there's just some leak in the front, actually there's some in here. So you can see that this is like not totally like waterproof or something. Here you can see the other half. Oh, what did I do? Sorry, Teddy. And yeah, essentially it's just mirrored. And here you see the gaskets, which prevent like water ingress, which are pretty cool, but you know, silicone would be nice to see. And as far as I can tell, the Tesla V2 already was supposed to have a light, but instead they just put a placeholder plastic piece screwed in with screws to where the light is supposed to be. So they just actively wanted to put a light, but then said, well, screw that, electric unicycles don't need lights in the rear. That's really sad, man. So what are my final thoughts on this disassembly? Well, this wheel has been ridden in the rain already quite extensively in Warsaw, and also in cold weather, so I can't really say that it's not really weatherproof, because as far as we see from the most of the compartments which are inside the wheel, it is pretty waterproof. It's not definitely as safe as the V10F, but it does the job sort of well. There are multiple areas that need improvement. Well, I would like to see another layer of silicone around the wheel, especially below the handle, because if there's like a small crack or a hole below the handle, then water can just drip in directly from there. Not that there should be like a lot of water because it's just below the handle, but you know, that's the possibilities. And there's just a lot of cavities in the wheel, and especially from the RGB strip around the wheel, water could get in. And the biggest part is that, you know, all these compartments are just connected, which is good for the cooling because there's like more air, but it's really bad if there's like a bigger accumulation of water inside. Now, the interesting part of the Tesla is also that this is one of the only wheels I've seen, apart from the Veteran, that doesn't have the radiator connected directly into the wheel well, which I think is a really good idea. And as far as I know, the Tesla is not a overheating wheel, and I think it's pretty cool actually that the radiator doesn't go into the wheel well. This is actually pretty safe. From the other things, I really regret that there's just two screws holding the motherboard together. You know, there is sort of a gasket inside, but you know, it should be, in my opinion, safer. The batteries do need a lot of improvement in terms of safety. There's like pretty much no safety on them, as well as the charge port, as well as the circuit should have some fuses. And the batteries are also in really, like, the batteries are placed on on a spot where there could be like a lot of friction. So they're on the edges, and it's quite dangerous, you know, when the wheel falls on an edge and there's just a battery behind that. And also the battery mounting brackets should be, you know, there needs to be a lot of refinement done, I think, in this wheel. And Begode maybe can check out this video and see from themselves what they need to do. So in total, like, I wouldn't call this quality like terrible, because I've tested it. It does the job. It is sort of rain proof, but especially in the battery department, especially in the BMS and, you know, charging department, it does need some improvement. And, you know, all the cheap wood screws should be changed for threads, but that's applying to every wheel manufacturer. But to end maybe on a positive note, I really like that it's easy to disassemble, and it took me way less time than the V10F. And once you figured it out, it's like not that hard. So a lot of an improvement to be done still, Begode, but I hope you're listening and you'll do it. And of course, if you are still here, you lovely person behind the screen, then please leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.